January 2019. Call this meeting to order. Would everyone like to introduce themselves? Start with Jack and work this way.
Hi, I'm Jack Kuchenmeister, and I am the student representative for the Parks and Rec Commission.
Nikki Villavicencio. Terry Millette.
Bruce Roman.
Craig Brandon.
Thank you, everyone. First item is the item would be the approval of the agenda for this meeting. Is there any questions or changes that anybody wants to make?
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next would be the approval of the minutes for the November 28th, 2018 meeting. Does anyone have any discussion on that or would like to make changes? Is everybody happy with that? Okay. Would somebody like to ask for the approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from November 28th meeting.
Okay, it's been moved, and is there a second?
Second.
And it's been moved and second. Any further discussion on that? Hearing or seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the meeting notes have been approved. The next item would be the new business. And the first item, oops, let me get the right page here. The first item would be the Gladstone Phase 3 Corridor Improvement Final Design Update. Staff?
Yeah, thanks, Chair, members of the Commission. Tonight we have our Public Works Director, Steve Love, here, and Paige from the Ramsey County Watershed District. And they're going to be here to talk to you about the final design for the north end of Wakefield Park as it pertains to the Phase 3 Gladstone improvements. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Love, and he'll take it from here.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, good evening. I'm happy to be here as one part of the project team. Audra and Paige are also part of that team as well. As you might recall, we were before you previously with the Gladstone Phase 3 project, which includes the improvements of Frost Avenue from English to White Bear, along with the improvements to Wakefield Lake. This project is, again, trying to accomplish a lot of things. So rather than doing a bunch of little projects, we're kind of accomplishing a bunch of things in one project. We're improving the road. We're adding pedestrian and bicycle facilities along Frost Avenue. We're also narrowing the street and reducing the amount of stormwater runoff. And this project has a big emphasis on improving the water quality of Wakefield Lake. Just one side note, we did find out we did receive a grant from MnDOT in $1 million towards this project. So that's another really great step, along with the partnership we have with the Watershed District. So rather than listening to an engineer talk all night, I'm going to turn it over to Paige, and she has a presentation more focused on the park itself.
Yes, thank you. I think, will the presentation come up here? Yes, okay. Perfect. So, yes, like Steve said, I'm Paige Alberg with the Ramsey Washington Metro Watershed District, long name. I was back here in October, I believe. For those of you that were here, we talked about the project. Like Steve mentioned, it's a big collaboration. We're very excited. We love working with the city. And then we have our engineers involved, Bar Engineering, and then the city's engineers, Kimley Horn, to work on our portion of the project, which is geared towards water quality and helping improve the water quality of Wakefield Lake. As Steve mentioned, some of the project goals for the overall Frost Avenue, we're very interested. One of our goals is reducing the amount of impervious, and Frost Avenue is extremely wide, so we were very excited to hear that the city was interested in reducing that, as well as getting some sidewalks and, more usable paths out there for people. And then our focus is the water quality of Wakefield Lake and putting in these systems that we'll talk about that help improve the water quality, as well as getting some education features out there and some other methods to get kids and park users out and enjoying these amenities. Steve, do you want me to touch on this, or do you want to go over just the cross-section quick?
Sure, I'll just touch on this. Right now, Frost Avenue is about 52 feet wide. That's very wide considering it's just one lane in each direction. So what we're looking at doing is reducing the road down to 26 feet wide. And this particular graphic is shown as 32 because there's a parking bay. So this would be indicative of what's right next to Wakefield Lake. So there's going to be a parking bay so that we kind of take advantage of that. We also are including a concrete sidewalk on the north side and a bit trail on the south side. The nice thing with this is for the most part, when we're running without the parking bay, we're essentially still within the footprint of that original Frost Avenue road. So that can give you some idea of how much we're reducing it. The sidewalk, the trail, the green spaces, and the road all fit within what's Frost Avenue right now.
Thank you. For a little project background, I'm sure you guys are aware of the overall park improvements that happened this last summer, fall, with the building and the rain gardens going out there. So we're hoping to just continue those improvements with our project. So I apologize that the updated plan that you have didn't make it to the slide. I just got this afternoon. But if you kind of get an idea for what was in the handout and on the screen, and then this yellow, green, and orangish printout is a kind of an updated version showing what we're doing. Basically, we have 2 large infiltration basins that are designed to take stormwater runoff off of the streets and infiltrate, soak it into the ground within 48 hours. They'll be fairly shallow, about, I think we are still working on the final designs, but about 12 to 18 inches at the deepest points. And then, so they'll capture that water and it will drain down fairly quickly. We have good soils out there, so that's good. The orangish areas will be, where that water is contained, mostly on that flat part. That's where the water will be standing the longest. And then the slopes will also be vegetated, and I'll show you some pictures of what vegetation we're proposing. So what's kind of purple on here, but yellow on the plans that were handed out, those will be native prairie plantings. So we'll extend that around the slopes on that east basin, and then on the north there along Frost Avenue, just to get some more native plants out there, eliminate some turf grass and the need for mowing. Both sides saw benefit to that. Also good for water quality to have those native plants out there. And then where that space is, or where the arrow is on the north side, all 3 arrows will actually be some walking access points. So the one coming off Frost, and then the 2 outermost arrows are going to be stone walking paths, and I'll show you some pictures of what we're looking at for those. And then the center one on that west basin will be more of a bridge to allow people who are using the park easy access. They don't need to trample through the rain gardens, and can safely walk through those and not create kind of those goat paths or walking paths through them, but still get out there and kind of get a little more up close to the plants and what's going on in there. So plantings, we don't have a planting plan developed yet, but we'll work with the city on, we've talked with some options and making sure we get the right plant selected for this. We want to make sure that it's designed to function. We want to promote that infiltration, so getting the native plants in there with the good root structures, but also something that's sustainable and fairly easy to maintain. The watershed district will be hiring someone to do the maintenance, which is good, but we want to make sure that it's not overwhelming amount of maintenance required, and that the plants will survive in this type of condition. So we're proposing something similar on that top picture there. That's the Bartlemy Meyer Park. I don't know what the park name is. Bartlemy Park? What was that? Yes, Gethsemane. So that's similar to the basin there. We'll have some trees along the the replanted areas. We'll have kind of grasses and forbs, more of that greenery on the bottom of the basin that can handle being underwater a little bit longer. And then on the bottom picture, we'll have some more of those pollinator-friendly, flowering, pretty plants on the slopes and outside of the basin. And then in that native prairie, we'll see some more of that color in there. And then, it's just a picture of some native plants that'll be on that kind of native prairie side of the plantings. For the center of that western basin, we wanted to have a kind of a boardwalk bridge that goes through there. There won't be the standing water that you see on these pictures for majority of the time, but we're looking at something about 10 feet wide and has that kind of kick rail on the outskirts of that. So still, we'll work with the city on materials. We want something that doesn't need a lot of maintenance and is, sustainable into the future. And also have some of these, we wanted something kind of interactive to get people using this while they're, maybe the parents are playing, I don't know, soccer is kind of the big sport out here.
volleyball, right?
Volleyball, using that, and the kids can, either sit out here, or climb around on some rocks. So these are some examples that were taken from other areas. So something on the left is kind of what we're envisioning, but maybe using more of a locally sourced limestone product to get out there and have kind of varying sizes, but irregular shapes, but the flat top and bottom so that they're easy to climb on and sit on. And then in the kind of the stone pathways we're proposing would go through the outer edges of that western basin so that people coming off the sidewalk can quickly walk through the basin and get access to the field easily. And then also off that slope from Frost Avenue, we'll install something similar to this there. Be fairly shallow stone, will be above water most of the time, but in those deep, when we get a full large rainfall, they may be a little bit underwater. But then again, quickly those will draw down so that people can still walk through. And we talked about signage, and we want to incorporate some type of, messaging, make sure people aware of what's going on and how we're trying to help improve Wakefield Lake. So we'll do signage. These are some pictures from Maplewood Mall and then the Bartlemy Meyer Living Streets project, where we have some sidewalk etchings and other features that help draw attention to these basins that are out there and other items that are out there. So we'll work with the city staff on developing those and getting what the right messaging across, and talking about, we've been trying to work with different languages on our signage. So talking about that and seeing what options we should have on the signs out there. Project schedule. This is, I don't know, Steve, if you want to go into more detail on this, but it's kind of an update from what we presented in October. We're on schedule, I think. Still working on the final designs that will go out for bid this spring. Is that still the plan? Spring, summer?
Yes, we're still in the process of design with the idea that we'd spring, early summer start construction, and this would be hopefully a one-year project for both the street and the park. So it would be wrapped up, I'd say, probably October.
To be safe. And that's all I have. Open it up for questions, comments on the plans, or anything you'd like to see that we haven't talked about.
Thanks, Paige. And
Questions, anyone?
Oh, Chair, members of the commission, before you start, I just wanted to say, as far as a recommendation goes, we're just looking like we did in October for feedback and ideas. It's not a formal motion, but it's just this is time to give your input on things as we're in the final design phase. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Questions? Go ahead.
I have a question with the native plants there on Frost Avenue. Will that affect people trying to see to turn there? Because I know there's some of these rain gardens now that get so high that it's hard to see to turn, and that's a busy corner.
That's a very good question. So we will take sight lines into consideration. We try to keep plants that are around those corners a little bit shorter.
Okay.
So I will make note of that so that we
Okay,
take that into consideration.
thank you.
Yes.
Hey, you had a question?
Yes, I was wondering about the stone path. Is that, you showed a picture where it was like in water. Will the one that be there be in water, or what will that one look like?
Yes, good question. So for the majority of the time, it'll be dry. It may be underwater when we get large rainfalls and those basins fill up. The rocks, the stones, we haven't picked them out, but they're usually maybe a foot or 6 inches, 8 inches in depth. So if the basin is about a foot deep, the rocks will be underwater when we get a full, 1 inch rainstorm or something that fills up the basins. But then the water will draw down fairly quickly, so we'll see those again
But, oh, okay, I was just trying to picture in my mind, like, what it would look like, but, so there is an alternative pathway, though, to get over it, though, correct?
Yes, there will be the bridge and then just walking around.
Oh, the
I guess
bridge,
would be
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
And that's the wood bridge that you were showing?
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Because I was just thinking, like, I know people with, like, mobility devices like walkers would have a really hard time with the stones.
Yes.
So that's sometimes
Yes.
something to keep in mind. But as long as there's a close-by alternative, I feel like it's not that big of a deal. And then another quick question I had was, and there still will be enough space in, to do volleyball games and stuff in the park?
Yes, yep. So we were working closely with Audra on the design there to make sure that we didn't take up too much space with this, but, yeah, could leave a majority of the park open for the volleyball.
Sure, and Chair, members of the commission, it was finding that balance of, you know, having this great opportunity to clean up Lakeville Lake, which is a really important initiative for residents, the city, the watershed, and then leaving it still as functional as possible for the open space. And again, that's one reason we took the ball fields out, so that, you know, when we repurpose this park, we could do these kinds of things and still have space for families to, you know, do pickup volleyball, takra, whatever they wanted to do, so, yeah. I mean, it has shrunk the footprint a little bit, but we're also gaining so much by doing that, so it's just finding that right balance, and I think we've done that, so.
I just, Chair, members of the commission, I just also wanted to add on to Paige's answer about the height of the grass in the rain gardens. Just kind of remember where this park is and the rain gardens sit, it's the number of feet below the existing roads. And so what you're going to have is the rain gardens down kind of where the ball field used to be.
Okay.
And then there's going to be that slope coming up. And part of the idea is to do the native plantings on that slope because it has benefit, you know, not only to the water quality, but also reduced amount of maintenance is trying to mow that slope with a rain garden below you becomes challenging. So it seems also like a good way from a visual aspect. We talked about framing the basins with these native areas. So, but certainly as we get closer up to the road, that's where we would work with Paige on, you know, what is that right plant mix at the top. But a lot of this is side slope and below.
Okay, thank you.
Craig, did you have any questions?
I had a question for staff. So there's no formal court or volleyball thing. It's just going to be grass courts where they informally set up.
Sure, yeah, Chair, members of the commission, it's just going to be wide open green space for people to use whatever way they see fit when they're in the park.
Is it going to be, are you going to touch the grade there, or are you going to just leave what was there? I can't remember how flat it is.
We'll have opportunity, there will be some, and I'll give you in the Wakefield Park Improvements update a little bit later, of just some of that work is going to be done in the spring. They didn't get to it yet this winter, so we'll have the opportunity to look at that, and if we have more questions before we get to that, because that work still needs to be done, but that won't happen till the spring. So. But it is fairly flat, and I mean, that's the goal, is to make it just open turf that's as flat as possible and easy to use for everything. And then I will also say, kind of unique, we're interested to see how it works out, but the big hockey rink that we have, that is not a cement or a concrete floor, it is grass. So that area is actually, we're interested to see how people repurpose that space during the summer for, you know, maybe putting up a net and they were playing some soccer in with smaller kids and kind of using that space as a designated play space that they didn't have before, so.
I have a few questions. Basically about the crosswalks on Frost and Prosperity and Frost and Hazelwood. Are there going to be just the two-way stops on those? Do you know?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, we're looking at enhanced pedestrian crossing at Hazelwood and one or two other locations where you're crossing Frost Avenue north and south. We're not looking at introducing, at this time, stop signs there, but we're looking at enhancing that pedestrian crossing.
Okay. And that would be from, I'm sort of seeing it here on the Prosperity and Frost one, but I guess I not quite sure about the Hazelwood crossing, and that's going to be pedestrian crosswalks on all four of those.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, so on the east side of Hazelwood, north of Frost Avenue, there's currently a sidewalk there. So what we want to do is tie that in and then draw that across Frost and install a new sidewalk down the east side of Hazelwood that will bring people to this park as well as the new building. And that's one of those crossings there that we want to beef up because there's actually a designated north-south crossing point there.
And the other question I had was on a sidewalk on Prosperity. Is there going to be anything south of Frost for walking?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Prosperity is in our five-year capital improvement plan. Not part of this project, but we will certainly be evaluating Prosperity for Living Streets components when we go to fully reconstruct that. Right now, Prosperity I would call more of a rural section. The majority of it is it doesn't have curb and gutter and it has a ditch system. So when we would go to fully reconstruct that road, we'd look at introducing curb and gutter, storm sewer, and then that might free up space to introduce a sidewalk or a trail along there. But that would be, I would say, several years down the line yet.
Would there be a safe area to walk along Prosperity there, between that and where the parking lot is going to be?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I would have to take a look at what's out there right now. I don't know if there is grade-wise a spot right there right now, but at this point, we're not looking at reconstructing Prosperity, and that's kind of what we'd really need to do to be able to put that walk in.
Okay. So if you're going south on, not south, west, I should say, on Frost, on the sidewalk, you really have to go down to Hazelwood and then over Hazelwood to the bridge to get into the...
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, no, on your handout, that page provided, you'll notice the yellow areas has a green gap in between.
Okay.
And that's where they're going to introduce another way to step down.
Oh, okay. I see.
It's not going to be an ADA step down, but it provides another way. But that's why we also have that bridge in the middle there on the east, or I'm sorry, on the west side there, to be able to provide that quicker access there.
Okay, I understand that. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? So we're just going over the information now, and then you'll have a more formal recommendation later.
Chair, members of the commission, they're not looking for a formal recommendation from the Parks Commission. They just wanted to get input and feedback on the design. So this is your time to look at it one more time and see where they're at and give any suggestions, thoughts, input that you want to share with all of us.
Okay. Any other questions by anyone else? Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's see here. The next item would be the 2019 Park and Recreation Commission goal settings. Audra?
Okay, thank you, Chair, members of the commission. Yep, if I can have the overhead. And if you can see it on your screen, it's a little small on the big TV, but in front of you is a copy of our goals from last year. So I can't believe it's that time again already, but it is time to do our goal setting for 2019. And just to give people a little review of why we do this, in compliance with Article 2, Section 2120 of the Maplewood City Ordinance, the Maplewood Parks and Recreation Commission is required to submit an annual commission report. In addition to this report, the Parks and Recreation Commission will provide a list of 2019 goals to the City Council. And so what we're here to do tonight is to review the goals from last year, see where we're at, have some discussion about them, and do some brainstorming and setting goals for next year. And then They'll be incorporated into the annual report, which I'll bring to the February meeting for everyone to review, and we can finalize the goals. It's up to you if you end up feeling like you can finalize them tonight, or maybe doing some review and then coming back, finalizing them at the February meeting, and they will get added into the annual report. And then in March, the chair will be taking those to the city council. So having said that, and one thing that we have been trying to do the last few years, and I did give you a copy of it, is to always try to tie our commission goals to this city council strategic initiative. So I've got a copy of those for you. It's a handout to refer to, and at that point, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I will take notes.
Do we want to go over the goals from 2018? And I'll just read them off, and
Sure.
any people have questions or anything about each one, we'll start. Okay. I guess I'll just read them off if that's okay.
Sure.
The number one was continue to implement the outcome of the Parks and Recreation System Master Plan. Questions on that? Okay. Number two, find new ways to engage the residents of Maplewood in community processes. I think that's a,
New ways last year that really, I think we need to continue to do
Yeah.
those.
Yeah, and chair members of the commission, feel free to, if there's a goal here and you want to add on to it, or, just whatever you want to do, feel free to just have the discussion. I'll take notes as best I can, and then I'll bring a copy back to you in
What was the
February.
one
for
that we
review.
did at the community center outside there? That was awesome.
Yeah, the Touch a
Touch a
Truck
Truck.
event, and
Yeah.
that was actually a question I was going to have for you probably at the next meeting, because I didn't put it on the agenda for today, but just saying that would be something, even in place of the July meeting, just to come to the Touch a Truck event, and doing the,
That was
because that was
huge.
great, and actually, other commissions were looking at inviting them to do the same kind of thing, because it was so successful to have you there doing the outreach and being visible, that other commissions might be following suit or be invited to join us too, so.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Do we want to have that as do we want to have that as I don't know if it needs to be a goal, but I guess that's part of the goal that we just talked about, and we're going to continue that. Never mind.
I mean, you could further it by saying we want to continue as commissioners to be engaged in community events. Can't see where we're at right now.
Yeah. I think it's getting too specific to list a particular event.
Event, yeah.
I mean, that's why I kind of.
Maybe just continue the new,
Yep, I think.
Continue
that's
new
good.
ways.
That's just a,
Yep.
Continue to find,
that's a
okay.
good plan. We should continue with it.
So continue to find new ways to engage? Okay.
I think so.
Got it.
Any more about two? Let's go on to three then. Offer special events at a variety of parks and make arts and culture a priority. I would definitely say we should continue that. I know at this North End group they're having for the northern part of Maplewood, they're sort of started to talk about ways to have more art things and things in that area, maybe in conjunction with the Maplewood Mall. So if we could work with those groups up there to try to get more art things up in that area, that would attract people from all over the city.
So any changes to the wording, or you like this one as is?
Pardon?
Any changes to the wording of this one, or leave it as is? And again, we can revisit this if you don't have changes today. We get one more chance to look at them in February too.
I think
Yeah.
it looks good.
Okay, yeah, I think that's good. Number 4, ensure we meet the programming needs of the actively aging community and offer inclusive, wellness-based activities in our parks. Definitely.
Yes.
Any more comments on that one? Okay. Bus tour of Maplewood Parks and Preserves to showcase projects and improvements.
Do we want to do that yearly or every other year, or what's the commission's thoughts on that? And/or staff?
Well,
Yeah, Joe.
I personally think it's a good way, I mean, for this being my first year of getting introduced to different parks, and a good way to check annually on how the parks are doing if you don't get a time to go out there regularly.
In addition, we don't see every park, so, it's kind of nice to see what's new, and I think it should probably stay on there as an annual event.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that we should see what's new and also that what is going to become new.
Yeah,
What needs work?
What needs work.
yeah.
The only other thing I would add about the bus tour, and I really don't have to add this on here, but it would be nice if it was a little bit earlier in the season so we could spend more time.
So it doesn't get
Because
dark.
it was just sort of getting dark last year, so
Okay,
maybe a little earlier.
sure.
Number 6, stay on top of park improvement plans. Are we doing that?
I think we're doing that.
That needs to stay on there.
Right? You guys, you did such a good job on your goals last year that you've got a good list to draw from.
Good. Any other comments on that one?
No?
All right. Okay, number 7 is the value of youth perspectives and recruit appointment a student PRC member.
I think it's a
How
good,
do we do on
I
that?
think we did that.
I'm here.
I think we got that one.
Got Jack here, so hopefully.
Do we want to leave that as, I'm not sure how long Jack's going to be with us, but are we going to need to be looking for another representative?
What year are you in school?
I'm a senior, so yes, after this year, I will be, I guess, retiring.
So
we
we should,
better keep
yeah,
7
so we
on.
can leave that one as is, because we are going to be looking for probably another student to fill that position.
Yeah, I just think we should probably just make that we do that every year, have a student commissioner. I
Not
think
as
it's a good
easy as you
plan.
like to think, but
Well, let's do our best to
Yep.
try to do
Yeah.
it.
right? It's a good goal.
Okay. Maintain a playground prioritization list that includes funding.
And Chair, members of the commission, one thing I'll add is we're in the process of getting our cartograph, which is our asset management software. The site went live as far as parks and maintenance, and we're getting that all added in, and you'll be able to, going forward, get reports on the playground inspections and see how they're rated. There's a rating system. The inspections this year were all entered into cartograph, so that'll be something where we can actually bring reports to you, and it'll show where things are at, and it'll assign a value to the assets. So I think that will help with this goal, too. You'll have better supporting documents and reports that I can bring to meetings, so just wanted to let you know that.
Is it something you can access from online, or is it just something that staff has access to?
Chair, members of the commission, right now it is staff. I'm not sure how that's going to go later on down the line. There might be a portal for the public, but we can have Mr. Love, who's overseeing the cartograph, come back and give another presentation on that this year. I think that'll be a good item for a meeting.
Any other comments on that one? Okay, number 9, semi-annual updates to review the YMCA City of Maplewood partnership.
think it needs to stay.
Yeah, I think we need
We
to
need to,
keep that up.
would agree. Any other comments? Number 10, be inclusive of populations with underutilized parks and rec facilities with creative and diverse programming outreach through focus groups. How we been doing on that one? Comments? Is that something we want to keep going? I would agree
Is
that
that
we should
like
keep
with
it.
the laughing one? Is that kind of what that means, or?
Chair, members of the commission, I believe that was Commissioner Porter. That was a goal that she felt really strongly about, and about having groups outside of the commission. I wasn't really sure maybe where the commission wanted to go with it. I don't know that we fully explored that this last year, but that could be something maybe for 2019.
Yeah, I don't think we did much on that. I think it's important, and I think we should try to do.
It's a good goal.
I think it should stay, and I think we should make an effort to hit that better next year.
Any other comments on that one? Okay, that's the 10 goals.
And
that were
Chair,
from
members of the.
2018, no?
I would say you're not limited to
Yeah.
10. I would maybe advise not to do more than 15 because it's a lot of goals, but I mean, if there's some that you want to add that you don't see here on the list, we can put them on there too.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, what would people like to add, if any, to those goals for 2019?
I would like to see some presentation on the rush line and how it's going to impact, our trails and, just how it impacts the parks. And I think that should be something that deserves a bullet that's a pretty big deal. And so,
Maybe broaden it to just lines in general, new lines. Because, we're also getting the gold line, and that also is gonna affect trails and stops and things like that.
so how do we want to word it?
Keep on
Like-
top of, be,
I want
Yeah.
more than be on top. I want a meeting
Be-
dedicated
yeah,
to this,
be-
where we
be
talk
more
about it.
educated on the decisions or the,
Even more specific, have a meeting to discuss
yes, what's going on.
new transportation, the new transportation lines in our city and how it's going to affect the parks. Something to
And then
that
ma-
effect.
And we should, let people know too, maybe more people would want to come to that meeting, like Weaver School that has all the kids right there, let their parents know, or.
So is that sufficient wording for you?
And the way I wrote it down was, have a meeting to discuss the proposed transportation lines and how they will affect parks and open spaces in Maplewood?
Yeah, perfect.
Sounds good. Any other suggestions?
It's been a while since we've talked about trails as a main topic at a meeting, and I think we're due for that too,
Focusing
because I
on the
know that one
trail.
is always at the top of the lists when you look at
Yeah,
feedback
when we
from
go to
the,
those meetings or for the neighborhoods, that's one of their number one concerns.
Trail
just-
maintenance.
just,
Yeah.
just general trail, what's new, just a trail, meeting or a meeting that has a trail component that kind of looks at what we have, where we're going.
Chair, members of the commission, maybe a goal that talks about, a meeting where we discuss and get updated on maybe connectivity in Maplewood, because that would encompass, where sidewalk connections, trail connections, and just how, because we always as staff are working on putting those pieces into projects, project by project, but we're not maybe always coming and presenting that to you. So maybe just having an update again with Public Works coming back and talking about, the connectivity and how the different projects going forward in the CIP and the 5-10-year planner to make those trail connections and that kind of thing. Is that maybe where you're going?
So,
Okay. Just trying to think of how to make it a big enough goal where it's not just, we want a meeting on this or a meeting on that, just to kind of, but maybe the topic of connectivity would be a good goal, just making it a priority for 2019? And then having the meetings and stuff would support that? Good job.
anyone else have another idea?
I think that gives us a lot of goals.
That would be 12, right?
One a month.
12 meetings. All right. How do we want to do this then? Do we want to have you come back in February with everything down on paper so we can see it, or can we do it tonight?
Chair, members of the commission, it's up to you. We do have 3 commissioners who aren't here, so maybe we don't want to finalize. It would just be a thought, but, I mean, they haven't changed much to bring them. Dorothy's comments, on her email back to us when she wasn't going to be here was, I like our goals from 2018, I think we should keep them. So, and so I think maybe just bringing them and finalizing with the February meeting would be okay, because we still have
That
time.
sounds like a great idea,
Okay. And then if you think of anything in between, we can discuss it at the February meeting.
unless somebody would sooner do it. I mean, I don't think so. So would we agree to have it come back at February meeting?
Yeah.
To finalize our goals? Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
that's great.
We are all done with that then, right? Just want to make sure I'm not. Okay. The next item would be unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? I don't believe so. Visitor presentations? No, I don't believe so. Commission presentations. Anyone have a commission presentation this evening? No? Oh, okay, Craig?
And I'm not sure how to, okay. So where we have our trails and where they intersect roads, a lot of times when they plow up onto the trails. And lately, when it was slush and then turned to ice, that's really deadly. And it's right at the intersections where you have to be, if you're on a bike or something, you have to be looking, and you have really bad conditions. I don't know if Public Works could take a look at, the maintenance and how they deal with that. There's not really all that many intersections that
Sure.
they'd have to look at, but it is a little, right now especially, pretty dangerous.
Sure, Chair, members of the commission too, with that unique storm where it was that heavy slushy snow, and then the fact that we don't use salt on the trails for environmental reasons, and so the salt isn't there to melt that ice, I can see where that can be an issue. So I will take that back and have a conversation with Mr. Love, and we'll see what we can come up with.
And just to add on to that, County Road B sometimes gets that way too. But yes, just to agree with you, Craig, it's a story of my life. Like, the curb cuts always get the end of the plow and the plow goes through. So yeah, I always get stuck on them too.
And it's been a bad year for that.
Yeah.
It's been really bad.
That's a good plan. Any other commission presentations?
No, but I would suggest walking around the pond here lately. There's been some really neat things. There's an owl out there now at night, and then there's been some deer with their babies out there late at night. So if you have any time, I'd walk the pond sometime.
Sounds good. Staff presentations.
All right, yeah. Chair Chair, members of the commission, I'm going to give you an update on the Wakefield Park improvements, and if I could have the computer just have one photo to show you, because the sign just went up on the building, so. Just want to say, they put up the official lettering, so the sign is up, and the siding is done, and we're just doing the finishing touches, and like I had mentioned earlier, some of the grading, because the weather got super cold really quick in November, and they were planning on that time, it affected some of the asphalt work and some of the grading, so we've just come to the realization that it made more sense to have some of that done in the spring, so they're going to be coming back and doing some of that work in the spring. And with the fact that we're replacing the playground at Wakefield, and we'll be talking about it at an upcoming meeting soon, and they're going to be doing this end on the north end. The park is going to be under construction in various ways throughout the rest of 2019, so it made sense to just wait till spring and not try to rush things and do it right. And so, having said that, the Grand Celebration Open House will be this spring too. We have not set the date yet, but just picking a date to do the open for the public. But the building will be open before that. We actually, not making any promises, but depending on weather and some other things, we may have the hockey rink open on Saturday. So they'll be able to have the warming space and that outdoor bathroom. Because we have that unisex bathroom outside, we can open that portion of the building. And so, no promises yet, but you'll know by Friday for sure if there will be skating, because park maintenance thinks they got the ice to a good spot finally, because then we had the warming, they had to wait, so they didn't have that nice layer of ice like the other rinks, and then it got really warm, and it's been an interesting year for ice, so. That being said, and then we have dance classes, the Maris dance classes that we always tried to find spots for at the community center, and sometimes they were in the racquetball court or on court 2 or anywhere they could put us. Dance classes start February 4th, and they'll be in the new building, so.
Sweet.
Super excited that they have a designated home. They don't have to worry. They can just have dance classes in the big main room with a view of the lake, so it should be a nice upgrade, so. Any questions for me?
Yeah. Is there a new video out yet?
I was hoping to have one for tonight, but they weren't able to get the filming done in time to cut it quick but they're going to be either filming it this week or early next week, and then there'll be another one online, and I'll bring it to the February meeting, but you'll be able to see it on the city's Twitter feed and Facebook, and I could probably even email you the link, so as soon as it's done, so you can see it. They wanted to get some skaters on the ice rink for the next update. We thought it'd be cool, and we just haven't got there yet.
I think they're on Facebook once in a while too. So.
Yep, they do. They post them on the
Yeah.
city's Facebook page too, so. That's what we're hoping, to get a nice video with people skating and all that good stuff.
Good.
So. Any other questions about the?
Anything else for Audra? Okay. Well, that leaves one thing,
Move to adjourn?
to adjourn. Is there a move to adjourn?
So moved.
Been moved?
Second.
Seconded? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Don't hear any, so have a good evening, everyone. Thank